Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to go ahead and get started. Just to remind you, today we're going to be talking about how to get started on your literature review for your dissertation. So let me go ahead and introduce myself real quick. Hi, my name is Katrina Oko-Odoy. I'm the founder and chief editor of Editing Worm. We work with a lot of graduate students from a wide range of disciplines and from universities actually all over the world. And I've been working with graduate students personally for years, ever since I got my dissertation, my PhD, and completed my dissertation in literature. And as I've been working with graduate students, I've realized that a lot of programs out there just really don't offer the guidance that students need in order to be successful, especially once you get through the coursework and you get to the actual dissertation writing process. You're not taking classes anymore. You're not necessarily, engaging with your professors on a regular basis. And a lot of programs don't even have written guidelines for many different aspects of the dissertation. So I'm starting this series of webinars to try to give some of my clients and just graduate students in general resources to help them be successful. This is based on experience working with graduate students and seeing, what does work well. How can we simplify this process and make it less overwhelming for people? So we'll go ahead and get started. We have a lot to cover today. We are going to, let me go to the overview so you guys can see what we're talking about today. So we will be covering what a literature review is briefly and why it's really important to your PhD, your dissertation chair and committee. Number two, how can you get an overarching feel for your topic before diving into the details? Number three, which research tools are the best fit for your specific topic and your discipline? Four, what keywords should you use in your literature search? And 5, how do you filter your results to find the most relevant sources? And then a little bonus step is, what is the best approach for skimming and analyzing your sources? Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with just a brief overview of the literature review. What is a lit review? Well, generally, the lit review constitutes the second chapter of a dissertation. Not all dissertations require one, but the vast majority of them do. And what it does is it demonstrates that you as a scholar are both well aware of and ready to engage with other voices in your field surrounding a specific area, a specific topic. So it's your opportunity to demonstrate that you have become a subject matter expert in that area, and you know both which sources to draw upon and which arguments have already been made. It's much more than an annotated bibliography because it allows you to draw connections between your own research and academic work that is already out there and has already been completed. So it really acts as a gateway to demonstrate that you're ready to begin your own academic research for your thesis and dissertation by showing the methods you'll use and which research you're going to be drawing upon and adding to. The most important thing about the literature review is that it allows you to identify gaps in the research that's already out there, that already exists. And the purpose of that is to position your study and explain exactly what it is that your study will be doing differently, what is going to be your study's unique contribution to the field. So it basically justifies the importance of your study, and that is the main purpose of the lit review. And that's why it's so important to your chair and your committee members. I would you can narrow it down to basically 3 reasons why the literature review is so important to your professors and the people who are going to be giving you your degree. Number 1, it demonstrates that you have the capacity to perform graduate level research. And number 2, it demonstrates that you are conversant in the existing dialogue and debates in the field surrounding your topic, meaning that you're prepared to become a peer of those researchers who are involved in that dialogue. And number 3, it demonstrates that there really is a good justification for your study and that it has the potential to make a unique contribution to the field. Now remember, your professors and your chair and committee members are busy people. They don't have the time to do all of this research themselves. So they're relying on you to prove to them that your study is worthwhile. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Getting a general feel for your topic. How do you just kind of get an overarching feel for your topic before you dive into the details and the nitty-gritty of narrowing down your literature to review in the lit review? It's important that you first recognize your existing knowledge. Think about, where did you first learn about your chosen dissertation topic, and go back to that source. So take me, for example. I wrote my dissertation on minority literature about the Korean and Vietnam Wars, and I first discovered this topic in a course that I took, and I read a short story about it. So it was the materials from that course, that graduate level course that I took, the syllabus from that course was a great starting point, because there were some secondary sources about that. There were other primary sources that were a good starting point for me to work from. So wherever you heard about it, whether it was your chair who suggested the topic, whether it was something you read about, whether you learned about it at a conference, think back and try to see what resources were there that you can draw upon. Now, if you're still not sure where to start, there's a few strategies that I'd like to suggest to get started. One strategy is to ask your chair or professors for syllabi from past courses that are relevant to your topic. So we're going to use an example research study today, just to kind of apply some of these concepts. And so let's imagine that we want to write a dissertation about the motivations of angel investors to invest in startup companies. So if you're, obviously this is a business topic, right? So you're in a some sort of executive leadership, organizational management program, and you're going to ask a professor who has led a course on a similar subject if they have a syllabus that they can share with you. And look at what are the readings that they're assigning for that course, and start there. Skim a few of those articles and see what's relevant that you could pull from there. Another approach would be to review recent articles in relevant journals. What are current topics and who's being published? So are people currently talking about, angel investing networks? Are they talking about female entrepreneurs who are getting funded by angel investors? And then who are those top names of scholars who you see coming up again and again? So once you've reviewed a good number of articles in a few different journals, you'll see that there's some repetition, first of topics, and then second of the scholars who are prominent in that field and in the dialogue. So those are the ones that you want to really pay attention to as you move forward. Then another great idea is to explore the sources that are being included in readers or anthologies. So readers are what are used on a lot of college campuses for undergraduate courses. You have a course reader that combines texts from different sources that just kind of guide that class, right? So, or anthologies that are published by academic publishing houses like Gale or McGraw-Hill. They have some great anthologies that provide kind of an overview of specific topics. So you might find an anthology on business investments or an anthology on startup resources that would serve as a good foundation to find key texts and voices for this example project that we're talking about. Now, another approach is to look at other scholars' literature reviews and see who they're citing. It's important to remember that in scholarship, you're not doing anything completely unique. You are always going to be building upon the dialogues of other researchers. So looking at the work that's come before you, even perhaps people from your program who graduated a couple years ago, anyone who had a similar topic as you can look at their dissertation and read their literature review. And also keep in mind that literature reviews are not specific to dissertations. Almost any journal article out there is going to have an abbreviated or a concise version of a literature review. So if you do find kind of some top articles in current relevant journals, pay attention to their literature review and the scholars that they're citing, because that's also a great source. Okay, before we move on to the next one, a couple other points. One that's kind of unusual, but I think it's actually a great idea, is to look at who have been the featured speakers at the big conferences in your field in the last couple years. So if you belong to an association like the American Psychiatrists Association or something of the sort, who was the featured speaker and what were they talking about? That's also a good way to kind of get more of an overview of a certain field or topic. And keeping in contact with colleagues or alumni from your program, seeing if they have done similar work and what they might be able to provide you as far as resources. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. So choosing the right research tools. This is really important, and it can be very overwhelming for students. But one of the main thing that well, there's a few things. One thing is most universities have subject matter experts who are employed and work full-time at their library. So that is the first resource that I would suggest that you make use of if it's available to you. These people are paid to help you and they love research. They are so knowledgeable in their areas, and so they are an excellent resource for you. So for example, depending on how big your institution is, you know, you'd have a subject matter expert in the humanities, or you would have a subject matter expert in the social sciences. So it's kind of more broader, but they will be pretty knowledgeable about kind of the key disciplines in each of those umbrellas. So you can usually find their contact information on your library's website and either schedule an in-person consultation with them, which they're usually happy to do, or they will also provide you resources over email, even maybe a phone call, whatever works best for you, depending on if you're actually local or online. Now, even if you don't have access to subject matter experts, the main kind of approach for finding the right research tools is starting broad and then narrowing it down. What do I mean by this? So going back to our kind of example topic for today, you're researching the motivations for angel investors in startups, which is a business topic. So you're gonna wanna start with a broad search engine scholarly database The top ones that I like to use, no matter what the topic, are Google Scholar, JSTOR, Project Muse. Google Scholar is a huge one, and it's great because you can access it anywhere. To use Google Scholar, you don't even need to have university access. Now, to actually access some of the articles that you'll find in Google Scholar, you would probably need to be logged in through your university's VPN if you're not on campus. But it's really easy to link your university's VPN to Google Scholar. And that way, when you find a relevant article, you can click on it and it'll open up immediately without having to enter your login credentials. So I would start by doing a general search using Google Scholar, and input some key terms. So let me pull this up and we can look at it together. Okay, so we're on Google Scholar. So we can type in angel investors, startups, and see what comes up. And startups is spelled in different ways depending on who you're talking to. So we can see there's some articles and books that come up. What seems like it might be relevant, maybe Angel Investors and the Market for Angel Investments by Elsevier. Elsevier is a great publisher. It looks like this is available through Science Direct. So this might be one to download and, like we were talking about, getting a general feel for the topic area. You can scroll down and even look at what references are they using, okay? We have some books and some journal articles. It looks like Wetzel is a source that's cited several times, so that might be kind of a key scholar that you're gonna wanna look into more. If we go back, let's see if there's any. Google Scholar is great because it searches not just for books, but also, not just for journal articles, but also for books. And as long as the book is published by a scholarly press, we know that it's been peer reviewed and vetted, and it's a reliable source. So while I have Google Scholar open, let's just take a look at how we can use it. Now, you can see that you can assign different date ranges, which is really helpful because a lot of programs today are very specific about, they're very particular about how recent your sources need to be. So some of them say they need to be within the last 6 years. So let's say we want to do from 2010 to 2016. This is a great way to filter your sources down. So you see we went from 16,000 results, then we filtered it down to 9,000 results. And then if we don't want to include patents and we don't want to include citations, because citations isn't going to give us the actual source, we can filter it down a little more. So that's one way to start focusing in. Now, once you've kind of browsed through the results on Google Scholar, it's great to move on to a little bit more specific database. So we can, the one that I suggested there's a couple ones that I suggested, but one of them that I suggested was Business Source Complete or EconLit. So let me see if I can pull this up. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay. Now, there's a couple great resources for just kind of finding specific databases, subject-specific databases. And NYU has a great guide that's pretty specific depending on, whether your discipline is theater or whether it's psychology or education. You can click on that specific topic and then that specific discipline and then find discipline and subject-specific databases. So right now I'm just looking for Business Source Complete so that we can do a search together. Now, so the idea is once we do the general search, and then we're going to narrow it down to using a more specific database. For this type of topic, we could use Business Source Complete or Econ Lit, something like that. So I have this up. We'll go ahead and do a quick screen share with that. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see this. We're on Business Source Complete. It's through EBSCOhost. So the best way to access it is go through your university's library website, and they should have an area for online databases, and you can search for it or look it up by name. So in here, we can use similar keywords, angel investor, startup, and well, instead of putting them all in the same line, we'll put it down. So angel investor is one keyword, a second keyword is startup. And then we can search. You can leave it broad. If you want to select the specific area that you want to search in, you can say, okay, I just want to search in the title. But leaving it open will search in all of the different areas of a source. So we see thumbs up, and you can see on the left-hand side, it shows us what type of source it is. So we have academic journals, we have periodicals, more academic journals. So when you're, and even a book, when you're gathering sources for an academic project, such as a dissertation, it's important to generally be drawing upon sources that are peer-reviewed. So that would mean mostly journal articles. And then, like I said, you can also draw on some books as long as they're by scholarly presses that are credible. So once we look at a couple of journal articles on here, we can also look at, okay, where are these journal articles being published and what databases are offering them. And that way we could even identify a more specific database than Business Source Complete that might have additional information. So that's just kind of a start. And we will go back and move on to the next one. So the next point is learning how to identify the right keywords to use in your literature search. We've already kind of been using a few keywords when we were doing the initial research to get into your topic. So you'll see that, keywords are kind of off the top of your head, right? So you already know, well, what words do you use when you're talking about a topic? When I'm talking about this example thesis topic, I use the word angel investor, I use the word startup, motivation. Okay, broader, you're thinking startup. Startup is a type of business, so that would be a broader keyword. So we kind of just want to do a word dump, do a brainstorm. If you want to do it on a piece of paper, if you have access to a whiteboard, or even on your computer, just in Word, just write out all the phrases and single words that you can think of that are related to your topic. And once you have them all down and anything you can think of, then you want to categorize them. Okay, so what are the broadest terms that you have down there? Put those into one bank. What are the more narrow terms that kind of weed out some of the broader ones, and then put those into a bank? And then what are the most specific terms? So if you're looking at motivations of angel investors, okay, get down to what are other words for motivation? What types of motivations are there? You know, whether it's a financial motivation, whether it's an ethical or moral type of motivation. Those would be more specific, whereas broader terms would be investment, business, that type of thing. So the next step after that would be to test your keywords. Right off the bat, once you've categorized them, you might see some that don't seem to be as applicable. But the way to know whether they're going to be effective or not is to actually go to Google Scholar and type them in and see what kind of results are you getting. So let's see. So you'll once you've input the search keywords, you'll be able to see, okay, am I getting something that's actually relevant to business, to my program, to my specific goal for this project, or is it kind of left field? And then you can eliminate the ones that aren't yielding effective results, and those that you enter and you see they're coming up with some really substantial, important sources, you will keep for later. Now remember that in the literature review, one of the initial sections of literature review is actually discussing your literature search strategy. So you actually say, okay, these are the databases that I used to conduct my search, and then these are the keywords that I used. So you will have to identify those in your literature review. So it's important to, you know, have a kind of some sort of a system that you're utilizing so that you can justify the keywords that you've chosen. So you've tested your keywords. Maybe you've found, you know, 6 to 8 keywords that are very effective, that are yielding good results for you. So you're culling your list down as you're testing them using Google Scholar, or you can also kind of have 2 windows open, test them on Google Scholar, and then test them in a more specific database like Business Source Complete, see how they're performing in both of those more general and specific databases. Now, one good tip is to make sure to use Boolean operators. This is a very technical term, but basically what it means is it helps you define the manner in which a search engine is utilizing your search keywords, so that it makes sure that you're excluding things that are completely irrelevant, but that might come up with a keyword. So you can use a subtraction sign to exclude certain types of results. So for example, if you want to exclude results on the movie The Social Network, then you could put a subtraction sign, social network, in quotation marks after your search terms, and that would exclude all results for that are related to that movie that obviously isn't relevant to your academic dissertation. So there's some great guides on how to use Boolean operators Walden University has one. We have a list of resources that we're going to provide you with at the end. So learn how to use those. And you'll see in some search engines, even Business Source Complete, it guides you in how to do your searches. So like you saw, you can have the enter one keyword and then choose and or and another keyword so that you're searching in the most effective manner possible. Forward, we have number 5, filtering your results and choosing the most relevant sources. How do you find the most relevant sources? This is really important, and I think that some students struggle with this. You know, it's easy to do a bunch of literature searches and find, but how do you weed out those that are worth your while and that aren't? So that comes down to determining whether a source is both credible and relevant. So is it credible? Is it a reliable academic source that you can depend on and cite specifically relevant to your chosen topic? So there's